There's a line on the ground that'll take you anywhere. If you want to go somewhere in particular, you gotta follow the right line. But there's a line on the ground most places, and we're gonna follow that line to whatever we might find, though it might not be just what we were expecting. There's just no point directing that line on the ground. If you let it, it just might take you anywhere.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Houston EV Hub, featuring members of Houston Electric Vehicle Association here at KPFT 90.1 FM and live on kpft.org. We're having our meeting tomorrow, 6:30 to 8:30 at the TXRX Labs for Houston Electric Vehicle Association. You can also join by Zoom. If you go to houstoneva.org, you'll find that Zoom link if you look around. So we want to remind everyone to call in with their pledges. This is still going on for a few days to 713-526-5738. And you can also do it possibly more easily at kpft.org. Just look for the big Donate Now button. But we want to especially thank some people who may not have been recognized over the past couple of weeks, including a very old friend of mine, not in the sense of age, but we go back to junior high. Don Lufin contributed $25 and became a KPFT member last week. And even before the pledge drive began, Cesar Viesa contributed over $121. Thank you so much for that. And we realized that it was actually the voice of Zap, Susie Lovejoy, who contributed $100 right there at the beginning. So Susie's sitting right here beside me. I've thanked her a lot so far this morning, and thanks again for that. And to everyone else, the list goes on. All right, very well. And Jane contributed, Saren contributed, Jimbo contributed as well. And thanks again to everyone, and it's your turn, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So it's time for Colin's Cool Fact.
Good morning. In 2019, 7,500 cars registered in the Houston region were EVs. By 2022, there were 20,000 EVs registered. In 2023, it was 44,000 EVs. That's an increase from 6% to approximately 15% of all cars sold in 2025. I am currently shopping for an EV, and dealers have told me we sold 44 EVs last month, and we sell every EV we can get. You might assume that the winds of change are blowing against EVs, but adoption rates continue to climb. Thanks to our friends at Evolve Houston for these RISE report stats. And if you'd like to get more info, it's a good report, including charging in the area. Just check in at houstoneva.org.
So that leads us right to our count of the electric cars. We neglected to report those last week, but for the past 2 weeks, I have counted, with the help of my wife Jane, running down the road and running the clickers as we see one after another. The past 2 weeks, we've observed over really oh, wait a minute, we need a drum roll for this. 283 cars running around the streets of Houston. Thank you for that intelligent step that so many of you have made. But right now, we're excited because we have an educator on the program, and we are going to meet him right now after this little music.
And saluting the loyal sons of Eli with Bula Bula.
happy to welcome Dr. Christopher McNally joining us remotely today. I met you briefly in New York at the annual meeting of EVA, and you just don't seem old enough to have done as many of the things that I see listed on your curriculum vitae. Could you help us understand who you are, introduce yourself, and tell us about some of your personal history before we get into your connection with electric vehicles?
Well, sure. Thank you. And thank you also for the compliment. It's always nice to hear that you don't look as old as you really are. So my background is I was an automotive technician. I've been in the automotive field for over 40 years now. It's all I ever wanted to do when I was a little kid. That's what I wanted to do. My parents were insistent that I would go to college and I would be a lawyer, I'd be a doctor or something like that, but I wanted to fix cars. So that's what I did. I went out and I got a degree in automotive technology, and I worked out in the field for 10 years. And I reached a point where I realized my parents were probably right, and it was time for me to make a career change. So I looked into becoming a teacher. And I finished my bachelor's degree in education, and I got a job teaching here at Hudson Valley Community College in upstate New York. And I've been here ever since. And I had the good fortune of the college helping me with my tuition. So I actually finished a master's and a PhD in education as well. And that's pretty much how I got here as far as my job. As far as the electric vehicles, it's a technology that's fascinated me since they really started becoming popular. Going back to 1999, 2000, when the EV, the hybrid vehicles from Honda and Toyota came out, they're just fascinating vehicles. And that's really what got me into that, looking into the technology. And it's just grown from there.
Well, you actually offer degrees in maintenance and repair of electric vehicles. Could you describe that program?
Yeah, sure. So we have a 2-year occupational Associates of Occupational Studies degree in electric and autonomous vehicles, and that is geared towards people who are just getting into the field. So your typical just finished high school looking to get trained for a career. That's what the degree program is really intended for. Then we also have a certificate program, a 1-year certificate program, and that is focused on people who are already working in the transportation field and want to add electric vehicles to their resumes. So we assume that they're coming in, we test to make sure that they have basic skills as far as repairs and diagnosis, and then they focus strictly on the electric vehicles and the semi-autonomous. We're not fully autonomous yet, obviously, but getting into the driver assist programs, things like that.
Well, your experience is broad. I mean, what was it like working as an auto mechanic before the days of electric vehicles?
It was a completely different world. You know, when I look at what we're training these young people coming up through the ranks right now compared to what I learned back in the early 80s, it's a completely different industry. The technology is so far advanced, and the reliability of the vehicles is so much greater. And when we start looking at electric vehicles, that's even more so. The electric vehicles that are available now are actually really tremendous vehicles. I don't see anybody spending any significant amount of time in an electric vehicle and then opting to go back to an internal combustion engine vehicle unless, you know, there's some really outstanding for it. I mean, the EVs are just such phenomenal vehicles.
Well, I agree with you. I've been driving close to 12 years of all electric, and before that, a hybrid. I want to invite our producer, Colin Lowen, and Susie Lovejoy, who's with us today, to chime in with any questions or observations.
I got lots of questions. Yeah. So in the Houston area, I've been looking around for a a class in EVs, and I don't see anybody that's addressing it. I mean, our Houston Community College and so forth. I think there is one at U of H downtown, but it's all online. Is your offerings, do they offer hands-on?
Yeah, so our programs are hands-on. We don't do anything online because this is something you literally have to put your hands on if you're going to be a technician diagnosing and repairing these vehicles. It's not something that you learn through an internet course. If there's something that just people are just interested and they want to get some information, but they don't plan on being a service technician, then going for an online training that might make sense for them. But we believe that the hands-on is crucial to produce a qualified technician.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And there seems to be a big hole, a big opportunity here for. I'm assuming that the manufacturers are doing a halfway decent job of getting their techs up to speed, but I'm interested in third-party aftermarket, that type of the garage down the street. And on the one hand, electric cars need less maintenance and have 3,000 fewer moving parts, so that they may not require as many mechanics and technicians. On the other hand, they're full of electronics, and one of the markets that I look at is for the aftermarket. When people start modifying their cars, because we know young males stereotypically are going to want to modify their car as soon as they get it. And I think there's a huge opportunity for mods and lighting and all kinds of good, I've seen some of them that are in beautiful cars.
Well, I've noticed, or rather, since starting to discuss your appearance today, Dr. McNally, you brought up the idea of increasing the EV workforce. So that kind of made me realize there's a whole new industry that's coming up in support of these vehicles. And my experience going to dealerships has not always been positive, even with the people especially trained to work on my EV. How are we going to improve on that?
The field for electric vehicles is so broad. So we're looking at electric vehicle technicians, people who are going to fix the cars. And Colin, you're absolutely right. They don't require the same amount of service. One of our EV instructors posted a picture of himself adding washer fluid to his vehicle and said, "Hey, I'm doing my 5,000-mile service." So, and that's honestly true. Aside from rotating the tires, there's really not a lot of services necessary. But the rest of the industry. So the big thing, and as EV drivers, we know this and we've heard this. People always ask us, "What about charging? Where am I going to get charging?" I hear that charging stations are broken and you can't get charging. That's a huge part of the industry right now, is the people who are going to be installing the charging stations and maintaining the charging stations. There's big demand for that. And that's something that we've been working on for the past 3 years now, is training people. So crossing that bridge between the automotive technician and the electrician. So the people who are going to install the charging systems and maintain the charging systems, they have to have knowledge in both electrical and in the automotive. So we've been focusing on that as well, and that's really grown. So the U.S. Department of Labor is actively involved in this. We're working with them to increase the registered apprentice programs for EV charging station installers and service technicians. Locally in New York State, we're working with the New York State Department of Labor to do the same thing. That's really where the biggest demand is right now. As far as the aftermarket, we see a lot of people who are interested in making modifications. So, the young students who come in, my typical college students, 17, 18 years old, they're watching YouTube videos, rich rebuilds and people like that who are taking electric vehicles and modifying them or putting old car. So you get a 67 Chevy Camaro and you put it on
Right.
a Tesla frame, that kind of stuff. So there's lots of cool opportunities for people who are interested in that area as well.
So back to repairs or maintenance. I had the entire battery system replaced on my car because of a recall.
Okay.
And there's a lot of potential for bungling a repair. I mean, 2 weeks later, the engine light came on, so-called engine light, and I had to go back in. They had failed to properly bleed the coolant after changing it out and so forth. So they thought, the machine thought it had enough coolant, and then it registered a low reading. So that tied me up for a day and a half. So how can we improve on that? I know that into your programs, your students have to have already had some automotive experience before qualifying to be in your programs. But how is the future of repair and maintenance going to improve?
That really comes down to education, and it's so true of all industries and all professions. Just getting people in to get proper professional education, professional workforce development, training people to do the job properly. And that's something that we emphasize in all of our automotive programs. We actually have 6 different automotive programs here at Hudson Valley Community College. And our main emphasis is on making sure that the job is done properly.
Yeah.
So, spending that time with them as students, explaining to them, this is the time where you learn the good habits.
So,
please.
you did have a day and a half that you lost, but you also don't have to go in for oil changes on a regular basis.
Right.
So
Although
you make up for that difference pretty quick.
Although if I go in for routine maintenance, the dealers frequently list oil change as one of the things they did. Never can get that straight. But we're going to get back to you. I want to remind our listeners it's Pledge Drive, and call 713-526-5738. You can donate there or at kpft.org. And if you have any questions for us in the remaining time and for our guest, please call in at that same number. But right now we're going to stop for a little fun with Zip and Zap, and this is going to include you too, Dr. McNally, so listen up, please.
Okay.
Zap? We've been hearing so much about electric vehicles over the past 12 weeks. I think it's time I gave you a little pop quiz.
You want to give me a pop quiz, Zip?
Yes. Do you think you're up to it?
I would imagine so. Try me.
All right. Question 1. Which of the following has less negative effect on the environment? An internal combustion engine vehicle? A San Francisco streetcar? An electric vehicle? Or a horse? Now, before you answer, feel free to consult with today's expert guest, Dr. McNally.
Dr. McNally, I need your help with this one. What do you think?
I know nothing about horses or San Francisco streetcars, although I have ridden on both of them. But given the nature of the show today, I'm going to go with the electric vehicles if you think so.
Okay. All right. Question 2, Zap. With which of the following are you least likely to visit a gas station? An internal combustion engine vehicle? A San Francisco streetcar? An electric vehicle? Or a horse? I think you can handle this one yourself, Zap.
It's debatable, but let's say a San Francisco streetcar.
Good guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go into a gas station with a streetcar. The last question. If you were going to give your electric vehicle a nickname, which of these would make the most sense? The Zapper? Runs on empty? No gas? Darn zippy. And your answer?
Why, of course, the Zapper.
I'll say you missed that one just because I prefer darn zippy.
I guess that figures, Zippy.
You didn't get a perfect score, but you'll always be a winner in my book, Zap.
Thanks, Zip.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you're too kind.
You're welcome.
You're too kind.
Thank God for sound effects.
All right, so we're going to get back to our guest now, Dr. McNally. Your experience is so wide. You're not just knowledgeable about automobiles, but you're also an athlete. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, okay. So I was a triathlete for a number of years. I've stepped back away from that, but so for those of you not familiar, triathlon, you start off swimming, then you transition to riding a bike, and then you go to a run. And my mother always asked me in the same day, and yes, in the same day, it's nonstop. So that's something that I was very avid about. My job right now doesn't allow me to train properly, and the last thing I want to do is go out and get injured. So right now I just swim and ride my bike and run for health and exercise. But that is something that has really been a major factor in my life as far as being able to motivate myself and to step up to challenges. I've completed 2 Ironman competitions, which is a 2.4-mile swim followed by a 112-mile bike ride, and then straight into a full marathon, all in one day. So,
Wow.
In order to do that, it takes a lot of internal fortitude, and that's really helped me in other aspects of my life as well.
Yeah, well,
Dr. McNally, can you tell me anything about the, I believe it's the ASE. Have they implemented courses in EVs and repair, or where are the dealers and the manufacturers in this process?
Yeah, so ASE is a certifying body. They provide certification tests and recognition for technicians in all forms of transportation, and they have very much gotten into the electric vehicles. So there are 2 electric vehicle certifications that experienced technicians can take, and there are also 2 safety-related certifications for electric vehicles, and we strongly support the certification through ASC. Our electric vehicle students take the ASC safety, and they take both of their certification tests, and we've had 100% pass rate on that. So that's something that we're very proud of.
Yes.
So yeah, ASC is very, very much behind supporting electric vehicles and making sure technicians are trained properly to repair them.
where is Hudson Valley Community College located?
We're in Troy, New York. It's considered upstate New York. Basically, what I tell people is if you look at New York City and you go straight to Montreal, we're halfway in between.
So it's a beautiful part of the country for where you were doing your running and your training, I assume.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time up at Lake Placid, and the Lake Placid marathon or triathlon. It actually starts and ends at the Olympic Stadium.
So please tell us a little bit about what went into your being chosen as EV Educator of the Year by the National Electric Vehicle Association.
That was a great honor. I was really taken by surprise. I never considered myself as, the Educator of the Year. But what they've recognized is the work that we're doing here at Hudson Valley, and not just on the vehicle side, but also on the charging side, reaching out and sharing the information. So all of the work that we've done, we share it with anybody who wants to use it. So I'm in constant communication with schools from across the country who want to have our curriculum and use it. And that's the whole idea. As teachers, we like to joke that, we beg, borrow, and steal anything for our classes. And so when we develop the curriculum for electric vehicles, the idea is to develop it so that it can be shared.
So
that
how-
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
How
So
can, speaking to that, sorry, how can we get you connected with our local community college to get programs?
I
like
think
this
I'm going to
going?
be talking to you. Yeah, I've got questions about because we'd like to do at our local TXRX labs, which is like a maker space. You can take classes in welding and automotive and so forth.
Cool.
I'd like to have just a basic class in what is the basic components of an EV, and so I'm going to be talking to you. But another question: what is in Houston? I can think of maybe one or two that are service providers that are small independent providers that are not dealer. Do you see development in that area?
It's slow. It's slow getting into the aftermarket, and that's mainly due to demand. So in my area, the dealers handle the majority of the diagnosis and repair of electric vehicles. And, typically you think about a vehicle being 5 years old or so before it starts really getting into the aftermarket. So it's just starting to get to the point where electric vehicles are being serviced in the aftermarket consistently. So we're seeing the growth.
Sorry, Dr. McNally, we're winding up now, but it's been our privilege and our pleasure to have you with us, and we hope to talk more in the future. Thank you, Dr. Christopher McNally. Thanks,
you
everyone,
so much
for listening.
Thank you.
And everyone, please drive safely. That's the key to saving lives. Even before cars drive themselves, we can do our part. It's not a war out there.
HoustonEVA.org, that connects us.
See you next time.
bye
And we're gonna follow that line to whatever we might find, though it might not be just what we were expecting. There's just no point directing that line on the ground. If you let it, it just might take you anywhere. If you let it, it just might take you anywhere.